Marcus De- Marcus Davenport has quickly become one of the most controversial players on the Detroit Lions defensive side of the ball, as well as one of the most controversial players on the entire roster. Many people believe that Marcus Davenport was brought in just to be a depth piece, while other people believe that Marcus Davenport was brought in to be a full-time starting edge rusher. Some people believe that some of the great seasons we've seen from Marcus Davenport are still yet to come and that he can still have a good turnaround to his NFL career, well, some people believe that he's too injury prone, that he's not good enough, that he hasn't developed enough, and that he will not by any means be the starter in Detroit. Now, today we're going to take a look at Marcus Davenport, take a look at all of the reasons that Marcus Davenport very well may not be the answer for the edge rusher 2 position for the Detroit Lions. But we're also going to take a look at why the Detroit Lions signed Marcus Davenport to a 1-year, $10 million contract. We're going to take a look at what Brad Holmes saw in this last free agency cycle from Marcus Davenport and why he, as well as a lot of the other coaches, believe that Marcus Davenport could be the answer and why he is the likely starter to at least begin the 2024 NFL season. Now, starting off, Marcus Davenport as a prospect was the definition of a ball of clay. A 6'6", 265-pound edge rusher with a 9.67 RAS score is a player that is always going to get taken in the first round. We saw it with Tyree Wilson, a big, monstrous defensive lineman with a good RAS score, but very underdeveloped, went as high as 7th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders just 2 years ago. And Marcus Davenport was a very similar prospect, being selected with the 14th overall pick in the 2018 NFL draft by the New Orleans Saints, who traded up, mind you, to get the UTSA prospect. Now, Marcus Davenport was a project player. He was a raw player with a ton of upside. He never really put up the biggest numbers at UTSA, never really had the cleanest games at UTSA, but he was a big, athletic pass rusher with great athletic ability, a lot of upside. And if the defense could polish him, he could have turned into one of the elite edge rushers in the NFL. He had every athletic ability, had every athletic trait you were looking for in an edge rusher, and just needed to clean up some techniques, some hand usage, some footwork stuff, and he could have been fantastic. Now, in 2018, Marcus Davenport's rookie year was good, but wasn't necessarily great. He played in 13 games for the New Orleans Saints, but didn't start a single one. He had 22 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, 2 passes defended, and 12 quarterback hits, while playing just 48% of the defensive snaps when available for the team. Now, again, this wasn't a bad rookie season by any means, and in fact, Marcus Davenport was named to the 2018 All-Rookie Defense for the 2018 NFL draft class. But a lot of Saints fans thought with a 15th overall pick, you want a little bit more production than just 4.5 sacks. And in 2019, he took a sizable step up, playing again in 13 games, but starting all 13 of those games, 31 tackles, 6 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, as well as 16 quarterback hits, while playing a much improved 61% of defensive snaps. So Marcus Davenport was a young player. He was a project player, but after 2 years, he had 10.5 sacks. He was moving in the right direction. He had 4 forced fumbles, and he was a player that was making plays for the Saints defense, even if he wasn't quite that 10-sack guy that a lot of people wanted him to turn into. Now, in 2020, Marcus Davenport had a pretty poor season, playing in 11 games, but starting 0, and only coming away with a sack and a half, but bounced back in 2021, where again he played in 11 games for the Saints, but started a majority of them, had 9 sacks on the season, 16 quarterback hits, 3 forced fumbles, as well as a fumble recovery. Well, he looked like one of those players that was finally putting it all together. In year 4, the last year of his rookie contract, everybody thought that Marcus Davenport had finally put it together, and it led the New Orleans Saints to actually using the 5th-year option on Marcus Davenport, bringing him back for 2022. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out, as Marcus Davenport didn't have a great 2022, signed with the Minnesota Vikings, and didn't have a great 2023 either. We've coming off of back-to-back years of Marcus Davenport having kind of a disappointing season. Now, the reasons are different. Obviously, in 2022, Marcus Davenport played in 11 games, had less than 2 sacks on the season. just wasn't a very good pass rusher for the Saints. In 2023, signed with the Vikings, had 2 sacks in his first 4 games, but unfortunately fell victim to a major injury, which ended his 2023 campaign. However, he did look good in those 2 games. He just wasn't quite able to be healthy for the entirety of the season. And that brings us to today, where the Detroit Lions in the 2024 offseason signed Marcus Davenport to a 1-year, $10 million contract to come in and fight for the edge rushing 2 position. Now, Marcus Davenport has never been an edge rusher 1, right? He's always been that edge rusher 2. And there's a lot of reasons why people believe that Marcus Davenport isn't the guy for the Detroit Lions. And the big one is the injury concern. There's this idea that Marcus Davenport has never been healthy. There's this idea that every single year he ends the season on injured reserve, that every single year he makes it a couple of games into the season and isn't a factor for his team. And while he's never played 17 games, he's never played a full NFL season, and those things are true, there's only been 1 season in his NFL career, which was last year, that Marcus Davenport has played less than 11 games in an NFL season. Now, yes, Marcus Davenport does fight through injuries at times. Yes, there are seasons where Marcus Davenport is injured for a lot of the year, but still plays and fights to play with his team and play and impact his defense. There are injury concerns. That is certainly a factor that the Lions have to take in, which is a big reason likely as to why Marcus Davenport only saw a 1-year contract and only saw about a $10 million hit, where a lot of the other edge rushers were getting bigger money, even though they were older prospects. Right? Availability is the best ability in the NFL. And unfortunately, Marcus Davenport has some questions when it comes to whether or not he can be a full-time starter and whether or not he can be an impact player for an entire season. On top of that, a lot of people think that Marcus Davenport isn't a true edge rusher 1 or even really an edge rusher 2. He's always been the second or third option on a defense. He's always had a Travis Hunter. He's always had a Cam Jordan. He's always had a Danielle Hunter next to him. And in Detroit, that's going to be very similar. That's all he needs to be, right? Aiden Hutchinson is the edge rusher 1. Aiden Hutchinson is the alpha pass rusher. He is the guy that's going to get you 11, 12, 13 plus sacks in a season. And all Marcus Davenport has to do is win his one-on-one opportunities, put some consistent pressure on the quarterback, and be a consistent factor. Even if at the end of 2024, you're only seeing Marcus Davenport walk away with 5 to 6 sacks, that's still a player that has been more impactful to the defense than we had last year on the defensive line, right? Obviously, last year, the Lions pass rush took a hit when James Houston got hurt. Obviously, John Kaminsky isn't the edge rusher 2 that we've been looking for. Josh Paschal is not really the edge rusher 2 that we've been looking for. So I think Marcus Davenport does bring quite a bit of value to this defense. I think that he is a better pass rusher than Josh Paschal and John Kaminsky. And I think he's a better run defender than a guy like James Houston, which would likely lead the Detroit Lions to starting Marcus Davenport in a lot of games, even if he isn't going to play every snap, even if he's going to rotate out with Paschal and Kaminsky and James Houston, and even if he isn't going to be the full-time edge rusher 2, I do think he will start a majority of the games opposite Aiden Hutchinson. I think he will be an early down defensive end for the Detroit Lions, somebody that they can trust to stop the run as well as rush the passer if it is, a pass on first down or a run on first down. I think they trust Marcus Davenport's skill set to cope with both of those opportunities, as opposed to having Paschal and Kaminsky for obvious rushing downs and James Houston for obvious passing downs. I think Marcus Davenport is kind of the happy medium between the 3, and I think that will lead to him getting quite a few snaps early in games and being quite impactful for what it is worth. Now, will Marcus Davenport be an edge rusher 2 that puts up 8 to 10 sacks, or an edge rusher 2 that puts up big numbers and gets big money next offseason? Probably not. There's a likelihood that Marcus Davenport plays between 11 to 13 games again this season, puts up between 6 to 8 sacks this year, and goes off and gets another 1, maybe 2-year contract for decent money, but not elite edge rushing money. But honestly, that's all the Detroit Lions need out of their edge rusher 2 right now. They don't need a second Aiden Hutchinson. They need a Marcus Davenport. they need a guy that's going to put up 6 to 8 sacks, that's going to put, 10, 12, 15 hits on the quarterback a season, that's going to put consistent pressure on the quarterback when he's on the field and not be a liability in the run defense. And that's the exact kind of player that Marcus Davenport is. So yeah, well, on obvious pass rushing downs, James Houston might get the nod. On obvious rushing downs or on short yardage situations, they might put Pascal in over, Marcus Davenport. They might put John Kaminsky in over Marcus Davenport. But on first and second down, on early downs in early football games, Marcus Davenport's going to get a lot of work. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Marcus Davenport get back to that, 6, 7 sack season, get back to a, consistent pass rusher for the Detroit Lions, and potentially put up really good numbers as an edge rusher too, and finally have a consistent threat across from Aiden Hutchinson. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about Marcus Davenport as a player, what you think his role will be on the Detroit Lions, and how much of an impact do you think he will have on the 2024 Lions defense. I'm very curious what you guys have to say. With all of that being said, that is all for you guys right now. If you have yet to subscribe to the channel and you've made it this far in the video, please consider subscribing. Obviously, you like the Detroit Lions content, and we come out with Lions content daily. So subscribe, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. And with that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.